Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Pod Stallions, the podcast for the website PodStallions.com. I'm Brian, and with me, as always, next to me, very far away in another country, is Jason.
Hello, everyone.
And with this being October, the month, one of my favorite months of the year, and Halloween, we decided to choose two topics, again, to explore this month as opposed to one, so you're getting a double shot of us. And this month's topic is something very near and dear to my heart. I think it is to you too, Jason, and that is the whole phenomenon that is Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Yes, indeed. I think I'm kind of surprised we haven't gotten to this yet.
And I'm sure we've discussed it.
We've discussed it, I'm sure, but as a topic, because it's one of those things that we'll talk about all the influences and where this thing has branched out. But for something that had such a brief lifetime, and people, a lot of the stuff that I've talked about that I get really excited about or turned on by tends to be stuff that, is kind of finite. Maybe if it's a toy line that's, there's only like 10 pieces that you could find, or, a series that only lasted a certain amount, or a band that only had 2 albums or whatever.
Well, being a fan of sci-fi and horror TV, you're used to stuff lasting a season.
Well, you are, but not that has resonated for 40 years like this.
No, this one really is one of those things that, like, first of all, to establish the history of it, I don't know if you knew this, but it was originally a book. Okay, you're going to have to, you probably know more about this than I do. And I actually have read the book too.
So it was a book. So I know that it was a book, and the character was Kolchak in the book, correct?
Right. What it is a fellow by the name of Jeff Rice was trying to get this book published. It was called The Kolchak Papers.
Okay.
He took it to a literary agent, and somebody said, this would make a good movie. And they had Rice. They actually optioned it for a script. It wasn't published yet.
Okay.
And then they got Darren McGavran involved, and they got Richard Matheson involved.
Okay.
And of course, Richard Matheson is one of my favorite sci-fi and horror authors.
I mean, to me, he's synonymous with The Incredible Shrinking Man and
I Am Legend.
Say again?
I Am Legend, The Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone and Beaches. I think he wrote the first draft of Beaches.
I believe he sang the theme song.
But he was at that point he was still a jobbing, television writer. I mean, or freelance sort of writer, wasn't he in the early 70s?
Well, I think he was a successful author, but yeah, he was a screenwriter.
Right.
And so it was actually the book didn't see publication until after the movie aired.
Mm-hmm.
The movie aired in, I believe, January 1972. It was produced by Dan Curtis, who, of course, is a producer of Dark Shadows.
And let's, just in case...
Certainly Man Who Knows Vampires.
I tend to assume that if you're into this show or if you're listening to what we're talking about, that you know a bit of this or have a bit of a reference, but just in case you don't, I mean, you're maybe going to get turned on to Kolchak for the first time or whatever. These were television movies. Mm-hmm. So these were not, we're not talking about, movie theater films or theatrical films. This was a TV movie. And from what I understand, the reason so they did the first one, which was called The Night Stalker. The Night Stalker. From what I understood, because I don't know if it was a magazine or DVDs or what, but it was hugely successful.
It was a record-breaking television movie. It had so much success that I've actually heard that they released it theatrically in Europe. If that's true, I've never seen the posters. I would buy that poster in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah,
because there's absolutely no Kolchak merchandise.
And Kolchak, the character Carl Kolchak was played by Darren McGavran, who most people, I think, if you put the picture in front of them, they'd go, "That's the dad from Christmas Story."
Yeah, Ralphie's old man.
Yeah,
but he has had a storied career.
Oh yeah.
I think depending on your age, you would remember him as Mike Hammer too in the 50s.
Well, yeah, and Twilight Zone, right? I mean, he was in a couple. Wasn't he? Was a couple of Twilight Zones, or was it Outer Limits, or was he not in Twilight Zone?
You know what? I don't know if he was on Twilight Zone. I
don't think he was. I think I'm thinking of your show of shows. No, you're right. He wasn't in Twilight Zone, but he'd show up in things like The Natural. He was great in that. In fact, he was uncredited, I think, in The Natural. He didn't want his name in the credits. He wanted it to be a surprise. But he's wonderful in that movie, the baseball movie with Redford, Barry Levinson. Just loads of
Yeah,
stuff. You know,
he has a career where he didn't show up a lot,
yeah.
but what he did show up, and he was just a. And this is one of the things, one of the themes I would like to say about the Night Stalker. I think it is the show it is because of him.
I think so too. I think but see, don't you think that he's right in the pocket of that very serviceable television actor that worked a lot, that was reliable, that was wonderful at what he did. But he also he wasn't method. He came like he wasn't, he was still in that like you put Darren McGavin next to Peter Falk, and they're two completely different actors.
That's a really good, and I want to go there. So I'm glad you brought up Peter Falk. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. You
know what I mean? Like he was still kind of, no, but come on, no, but well, of course not. No, I wouldn't do that. I mean, it was a bit of the character, but it was also still that kind of acting style. It was a little bit broader. It was a little bit more. But he also, I mean, I remember this show as a kid. I remember seeing this on television as a kid because the two TV movies happened, I think, a year apart. Now that I didn't know that as a kid. But then the bulk of the series, which was how many episodes? Like 20?
20.
16?
I'd be surprised if it was 20.
When it got the full order, I mean, I remember watching this show.
They did do 20 episodes. Wow. Okay.
It might have been in reruns. It might have been like after the first season aired, and then they would always rerun the season.
Well,
so
the show ran in 75. So you probably
I mean, if it ran in 75 and like got repeated or what, I mean, it's one of my earliest TV memories is this show scaring the crap out of me.
Well, this is the thing about that show, and as you know, I was a monster kid from the day when I figured out what a monster was.
Right.
And when I would read, I don't think I read Famous Monsters as a kid, but I read those Jeff Rovin books and different publications about monsters in the library. They all would mention the Night Stalker and how good it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember, I think it was 80 or 81, Buffalo 29 played the movie. They used to play a movie at 8 o'clock every night. And I really wanted to watch it, and we had one TV, and you kind of had to wrestle for it. And I remember my dad sitting down, "What do you want to watch?" And we turned it on, and he's like, "Oh, Kolchak," and it was like, "Oh, my dad knows what this is."
Wow, okay.
And so that's how big a deal it was, and he knew what it was. And then I think the next day they played The Night Strangler, which is the sequel, and then. About 2 years later, the Rochester channel, which I was joking with you off recording, played it around 1 a.m. And I also had to watch the great commercials for the Record Archive and J&E Groceries, all that stuff I was talking about. Right. But then I think we had a VCR by this point, so I was taping those at like 1 or 2 a.m. And I really grew to understand why those that liked it a lot, because again, I think McGavin really embodied this character. Whatever it was about this character, his acting style just nailed it.
He totally did. It was, and let me just jump in real quick again for those of you that may be coming to this kind of fresh. The gist of Kolchak, the Night Stalker, was he was a reporter for a Chicago paper. He had a grumpy boss, as most do in television, like cops and reporters and everything else. But they had a mutual friendship, understanding kind of thing. A few other characters would float around. They were recurring, but he was the one that really went out and did stuff. And the gist of it was, if anyone out there has never seen or doesn't know it and digs the X-Files, we'll get to this eventually, but it's the precursor, because here was this guy that was aware of zombies and werewolves and vampires and you name it, and he tried to track these stories down, and invariably by the end he had no evidence, he had no proof, no one believed him, he couldn't print the story, etc. And so he just kept writing articles he didn't really care about because he wanted to go after these stories.
The first movie is actually a story unto itself, which is there's a vampire in Las Vegas.
Right.
No one believes him. And at the very end, he gets the vampire, and he's staking him as the cops burst in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then he's drummed out of town. They burn all the bodies because the cops know what's going on.
That's
and
right.
he's ruined. And the very end of, and he had a girlfriend in this, and it's all over. And the very end of the first movie, he is sitting in a crappy motel listening to his tape, recalling it, and you're like, wow, like it's a real downer 70s ending.
Yeah.
The second
like
movie,
Salem's Lot. I remember the ending of Salem's Lot. You're just like, oh my God, really?
The second movie has him show up in Seattle, and his former boss, played by the brilliant Simon Oakland, Vincenzo, hears him in a bar, and he says to somebody, "Is the guy over there wearing a crappy suit?"
It's straw hat.
Yeah. He hires him to do. The same job for this other paper, and of course the paper's run by John Carradine, who's a real stickler, and of course weird murders happened again, and it turns out to be the killer spoilers. The killer turns out to be Richard Anderson, who is the Oscar Goldman, which is weird because in the original pilot for the $6 Million Man. Darren McGavran is the original Oscar Goldman. He's not the same character name.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, he's not the same character name. The character of Oscar Goldman hasn't been invented, but he's the guy who makes Steve Austin bionic, and he's written out of the series after the pilot.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I just thought of that. That's why I got all up.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Well, yeah. But that's the other thing too, is he's kind of, it's weird because it is kind of a heightened thing. It reminds me of the fact that he is always wearing the same like seersucker suit.
Yet he drives an awesome car.
Shirt and tie, drives on, but he's always in the same. It reminds me of the Wes Anderson thing where, the characters are wearing the same uniform basically throughout the film, like the, Tenenbaums or whatever. Nobody ever questions, like, why don't you see Kolchak in a tux or whatever? He's always wearing that suit in every episode.
Well,
but
I think that's sort of synonymous with the character, and that's who he's supposed to be. Is this?
It is, but I mean, it's interesting because anyone in wardrobe would have gone like, well, let's give him a vibe, and let's make him rumpled, and let's make him kind of square, and he's wearing this straw hat that nobody really wears anymore in the mid-70s. But to give him the same exact suit in every single episode, that to me is like branding. That to me is like someone was thinking about this to put this image of this guy and this character synonymous with the name of the show, because it became Kolchak, the Night Stalker. It's like, let's keep him in the same. It's like a superhero unit. I mean, even James Bond doesn't wear the same. He's not a superhero. He doesn't wear the same outfit every day. Clark Kent doesn't as a reporter or whatever. It's really. I always thought that was really interesting, and I wondered what the methodology was of that. Speaking about the show, though, the history and everything. Just beyond all the character actors that showed up and all the names I can't even think of the writers besides Matheson off the top of my head, except for Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis, who I think one of their first things that they ever wrote was something to do with Night Stalker, one of the episodes maybe, or they were something to do with it. But David Chase, who ended up on Rockford Files and then created The Sopranos and all that stuff, I think he was either story editor or consultant or script doctor or peppered things, and he brought a lot of humor into the show.
Well, that's the one thing that was really synonymous with the show is how funny it is.
It is very funny. And when it's scary, I think, yes, it's dated in places and it's a little ridiculous with the makeup here and there. But it now here's the thing. I mean, I did think it scared. I mean, I look at it now and some of them I find pretty chilling and some are a little more dated. But do you think it was originally sort of made with a younger audience in mind? I know it was a nighttime series, but do you think it was trying to appeal to that early 70s, mid 70s monster craze that kind of kicked off?
Yeah, I do think that. I think that they didn't expect it to be as huge as it was, and then they were like, "Hey, we're on to something here. Let's keep going." And I think it really was huge with that crowd.
And then how did the show itself? Because it only lasted a season, so it couldn't have done that well.
Yeah, one of the things I want to talk about is it went to series. And the series, the first two movies show Carl being bounced around.
Right.
And then the series, it went to series, and I think that what happened was it kind of became a fatigue issue. Because, the concept in itself was now that Carl was a writer for the Associated Press, like a syndicated service, and he lived in Chicago. Mm-hmm. Again, Vincenzo was his boss. They smartly cast Simon Oakland for the series. Mm-hmm. And he had a couple of... he had a foil in the office. I think his name was Ron Updike, who Carl called Uptight. And
can we just talk about his buddy Ron Updike at the office for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Am I wrong in thinking that perhaps the creators were trying to tell us something about Ron that maybe,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, he was from San Francisco. They gave him the name Updike. He was always getting picked on. He was like, always, squirting Primatine mist up his nose because he had this and this. He always getting colds, and Oakland chews him out. Well, you're sick again. I mean,
well, I think what they were trying to do, rather than that, was they were coming up with the bizarro Carl Kolchak, right? Like Carl's a slob, and he's unethical, and he bends the rules, and he's a character. So you come up with this character who's neat and follows the rules and is tidy looking in his appearance, and so I think that's more or less what that character was supposed to be, was this kind of you're a direct out, you're Ned Flanders to your Homer Simpson, you're Felix to your Oscar.
Yeah, I think so, and I think am I Felix to your Oscar, by the way?
I like to call this show a couple of Oscars.
Nice.
Yeah,
like it. So okay, so it didn't. So it did. I think it did okay, but it didn't sustain. But what I was saying, I think it's fascinating that the brief run that it had, it is so beloved by monster, sci-fi, whatever, because it was this mishmash. Did they ever go into? I mean, let's just run down some of.
Yeah. What I should tell you too is that the show was a Friday night at 10, which is not a great time.
Oh, yeah.
And they moved it to Friday nights at 8. But it just never...
Yeah.
And McGavin was unhappy, too, because it was turning into Monster of the Week. And one of the things I will say that I don't like about the show is, how many friggin' monsters are there in Chicago?
Have you been to Chicago?
Yes, many times. And I love Portillo's and
there's a lot of monsters though.
There's monsters they're monster bear fans, and they have monster traffic. But
huge monster community in the Midwest that people don't know about. Yeah, lots of
getting killed by zombies.
Lots of Sasquatch in Minnesota. Iowa's overrun by spider babies. So there's a lot of that going on in the Midwest.
Toronto has undead Elvises mostly.
See, so. It's the underbelly you don't think about in Chicago. But yes, you're right. Why Chicago? But then why did those damn Scooby kids have to run into so many monsters?
To get to the point of this, what I would really have liked this series to have done, and of course, I don't have a magic eraser or a time machine, is I wish it was more like Columbo, where they just kept doing a 2-hour movie once a month. That would be more plausible. It would be more like event television.
You could really feel it out. You could let it breathe more. You could let it sort of build. But I got to tell you, speaking of Columbo, which I think we both love, and we love Peter.
I adore Columbo.
And it was. But man, we went back and watched a couple Netflix instant. I want to say mid-70s, and my God. One of them, it was about a museum or something. The crime didn't even commit till close to 30 minutes into the episode.
Oh, wow.
Before we even saw Columbo asking questions. It's like, wow, let's go. Like, I don't want it to like zip by, because I know it's from the era that it's from, but it really took its time.
You know what? I didn't mind that, because like my Columbo era in the mid 90s was the height of my unemployment.
Nice.
And oh boy, did Columbo help click the day away?
Do you know where what I understood the character to have come from?
Yeah, I know all about the origins of Columbo.
Oh, you do? Okay, so is it Diabolique?
Mm-hmm.
The French film
This
Diabolique.
is the first time I can say this that we did this.
No, we didn't.
Yes, we did in the Watching the Detectives episode.
We did an episode about detectives.
Yeah, we did.
I got to start listening to the show.
Yeah, you should.
Shit, what else have we done? You know what we should
That's
do?
it.
We should do one on Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one.
Or toys.
No.
Or like Mego.
Nobody but interested in that.
Why haven't we done a Doctor Who one yet?
I think we started with that.
We talked about the Diabolique thing in the episode. Did I say it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Christ. This is bad. That's bad. This is the first sign. This is the first sign that either I'm losing my mind or there's way too much up in my mind that is getting regurgitated. I don't want to be that guy.
You know what?
Maybe this should be a safe word. Maybe we should have a safe word in the show. Yeah. Maybe if you start to go down, if you start to go down a road and go, so the thing I love about Columbo is the height of mine, and I'll go swordfish.
Yeah. Or you could do a bird call.
Or
yeah.
And that'll get you to go, oh, whoops, never mind, went down this road. Sorry.
Moving on. What? I'll be perfectly honest with you. I actually, a couple of weeks ago, I was working on the blog, and I posted a fashion photo, made a joke,
right?
Almost pressed publish, and went, this is weird. And I started to dig. 6 months earlier, I had made the exact same photo, the exact same joke, and I was wow, I'm tired.
Come on, man, you're posting something every day.
I know, but it was like
that's
it kind of made me like, it gave me what I would call pause, where it's like,
sure,
what am I doing here?
By the way, side note, if you don't track down one of those Hal Needham stunt spectacular playset things for me someday, we're not going to
go on YouTube, because somebody gave me the link. It's Dick Van Dyke playing with it, because I guess he was the spokesperson for Gabriel Toys.
Yes, he was, but I need to get a hold of that thing.
It's a pretty neat.
It's so random, and it could only have been the 70s, and it could only have been that company or whatever. It's just one of those perfect things. But anyway, speaking of which, did the show? And I know it was a very brief run, but did it get any kind of merchandising? Like were there tie-in,
here's what I know. There's
books or anything like that?
Nothing. But I will tell you what I know. Okay. 2 paperback novels. I own both. Obviously, they were published after.
Okay.
And in the paperback novel, it is revealed that Carl is of Transylvanian descent, and his real name is Carol. And his grandfather used
Carol,
like
Carol O'Connor.
Yeah, like it's a an Eastern European name, right?
Oh,
okay. And his grandfather used to fill his head with stories of vampires.
Oh, okay.
So that's a little bit of his backstory you don't get in the show. I guess it was just deemed unimportant.
And you would know this. I think we ever, and stop me if you've heard this one before. Did we talk about Doc Savage and that whole the film that George Powell did? Have we talked about that ever?
We probably have dabbled in it. I don't think we ever did a Doc Savage show, but
wasn't that the thing, or wasn't that a thing that was about to get something from Mego at the time? Like,
yes, it absolutely was.
So would Kolchak have been something that?
No, I never heard anything about Kolchak getting that kind of merchandising. I would imagine the most interested people in Kolchak, if the show had continued, would have been Aurora.
Okay.
But the only thing I do know about licensing Kolchak is, first of all, I know it's difficult because I've tried, but there was one comment. In 1974, Marvel Comics got sold. Martin Goodman sold it off.
Okay.
And the first thing they did was fire Goodman's son, Chip.
Okay.
So Goodman, angered and rich, decided to start his own comic book company called Atlas Seaboard. I love Atlas Seaboard comics. They came out in the early 70s. He hired anybody from DC or Marvel. He offered more money. He offered better, page rates. But one of the weird things he did was he took Larry Lieber, who was Stan Lee's brother, and used to working in comics, and he took Jeff Roven, who is very well known for horror magazines, and he put Lieber in charge of the magazines and Jeff Roven in charge of the comic books, which makes no sense. Roven's initial Rovin's initial comments to him were, "We need to license the following two programs. We need to license Kolchak the Night Stalker for a comic series, and we need to license the Omega Man for a comic series," which would have made my head explode.
Okay.
Martin Goodman refused and said, "Just knock them off." So Atlas created a comic called Planet of the Vampires, which is really like Planet of the Apes meets I Am Legend. And they created a comic, and I cannot remember the name of the character, but he's like a Hollywood stuntman who fights vampires. So
Okay.
That's now the Kolchak did. I think there was an issue of Dracula Lives Marvel did where they had a character called the Night Stalker, who was essentially Kolchak. But no, there's little to no merchandising. In the 90s, some comics appeared, but my friend Sean in the 90s sculpted a model kit of Kolchak for Dimensional Designs. But there's never been any toys. There's never been anything but some comics and some books, and of course DVDs. And the show got released on VHS, I think, in the early 90s. Couple of episodes in a compendium.
Okay. And wait a second. You why is it quite so? I mean, is it who's got the? Isn't there like a comic company now that's doing stuff?
I think Moonstone was doing it for a while. I bought a few of them. They were really nicely done.
Well, let's go back a bit. So the show gets the two TV movies, and it becomes an hour-long weekly series. Gets canceled after 20 episodes, etc. But
and I'll tell you why it got canceled too.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was a night film show, so it was really costly.
Is that why?
And the star was tired.
Okay, but it wasn't. Was it nothing to do with the ratings?
Well, I think it was bringing in an audience, but it's one of those things where you could put a crappy sitcom there and get the same audience. You know what I mean? Like, it's not all just the ratings. It was the fact that it was a really costly thing to produce. Like, same with Battlestar Galactica. You look at Galactica's ratings; they're high.
They're Galactica. Didn't we talk about this? Got like 60-some million people. But
the show cost a bundle.
It cost like $1 million an episode.
Yeah,
incredibly expensive show. So that sort of makes sense. Maybe he was getting tired, or whatever. So then it must have gone into they say syndication. I always thought you had to have.
They took the TV movies; those went into syndication. They also, and I'd love to see these. They also took the first couple of episodes and made it into like TV movies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You know how they did that with Planet of the Apes? Excuse
me. I didn't know that. I don't think I ever saw.
Sorry.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm very sorry.
No. Take a swig.
Yeah, they did that with Planet of the Apes. They did that with Space 1999, UFO. They would make these mishmash TV movies and cram them together and market them that way. And I think they did that. And I have never seen the Kolchak TV movies like that.
No, neither have I. I mean, at least here, in the U.S., sorry, where I am in America, you can get the entire collection on DVD, I believe. Is it available everywhere? I mean, like, is it worldwide, or is it like?
Well, it was on Netflix for a long time, and the thing is too is the thing that kept the show alive is CBS used to play it at like midnight nationally, with Columbo episodes on Friday nights for years in the 80s. And in the 90s, the Sci-Fi Channel ran the hell out of it. And then, as years went on, the Scream Network did it. So it's had a long, storied life for a 20-episode series.
For a very short-lived series. But even more importantly, we're talking 75, whatever. So 20 years later, 94, 95, whatever it was, Chris Carter creates something called The X-Files, which, again, was a slow burn. There was one.
I think that came out around 93 or 94.
I thought it was 94.
No, I remember watching it in a dorm room.
So maybe it was 93. Maybe it was 90. but it was a slow burn because it did okay, but then there was someone at the network that said, no, we gotta make sure this keeps going because it didn't
was
do
all the buzz at college.
It started to build slowly, but everyone that talked to Carter, assumed that it was, the paranoia conspiracy stuff and maybe some Twilight Zone influences and things like that. But he kept saying, no, really, the biggest influence is Kolchak, the Night Stalker. That's really, and then people started to talk about Kolchak again in the 90s. I thought it was like, oh yeah, of course. And then eventually, Darren McGavin showed up on the X-Files.
Yeah, now, did you know this, that the original notion Chris Carter had, because he was always big about it being Kolchak.
He wanted it to be Kolchak.
He wanted
right?
it to be Kolchak, and
Yeah.
McGavin said no.
McGavin said no, yeah. And so he created a character who was called Chancho LaRue, I think.
Chachi. I thought his name was Chachi.
Chachi LaRue.
Yeah.
No, I forgot what he does.
I do too.
No, I know. It was Arthur Dales or Daly or Dales or
You know
Dale.
what? I'll be honest with you. I've never watched the X-Files.
Okay, well that'll be our next.
I've seen every episode twice, so
that'll be our next show.
Well, that'll be you and her.
Yeah, or you can just catch up from now till then and watch every episode. But so he shows up in the X-Files as I think it's Arthur Dale, and he's not Kolchak, but what Carter did was make him, quote, the father of the X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Carter
he was
also threw in Roy Thinnis.
Yes,
a bunch
he did.
of episodes, so it was kind of like a homage to the Invaders. I loved that.
Yeah, and he threw in Charles Nelson Riley, which was an homage to Match Game.
I thought it was Uncle Croc's block.
I said sailor. My aunt's a sailor.
He never gets
Stop
boring.
So then everyone's talking about Kolchak again, and then there was a remake. There was another series in 2005.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this right now. I never watched a minute of it.
I did.
Oh, did you? As soon as I read Stuart Townsend, I went, wrong. This is wrong, because that guy has zero screen presence.
But see, it's not only that.
Sorry if you're a listener, Stuart.
No, but we got to be careful because we've just had a revelation about someone that's listening to us. So we forget this goes far and wide. No, but here's the thing: for geeks like us that are uptight about such, like I can say I love Roger Moore. I think he's terrific. I love him as Bond, but he's not Bond. Brosnan is okay, but he kind of looks like Roger Moore's, nephew. Craig, Dalton, Connery, the things, and Lazenby, which we'll talk about someday. We did a 007 episode, but anyway,
yeah, we did.
The thing that's great about those guys is they're handsome in a not jump at you kind of way, and they can handle themselves. That you don't want to go up against this guy because he's going to break your neck. And we talked about this just recently about the character of the Doctor on Doctor Who, where I don't have a problem with Davison or Tennant or whatever, but Matt Smith had a wonderful face. Eccleston's got a great face. Capaldi, that's how he should look to me. He shouldn't be the prettiest guy in the room. He should have a handsomeness that the personality is attractive, whatever. The minute you throw out a name like Stuart Townsend, no offense to whatever else he's done, you think about the character of Kolchak. He's not supposed to be that guy.
No, he's not a handsome pretty boy.
He's not a handsome pretty boy. He's not the guy that gets through the front door. He's not the guy that sits up at the front of the press room.
He's the guy putting his foot in the door.
Exactly.
He's the guy that gets pushed around.
Exactly.
It would be like, okay, we're going to do Columbo, but we're going to get I can't figure out a handsome actor's name right now.
Jesse Eisenberg.
God, stop with the
yes, listening. That was.
We're gonna get no. You know what?
We're doing a Jesse Eisenberg marathon at the house tonight.
Are you?
That chameleon. Oh. Yeah.
I like when he plays that one dude.
Yeah, someone should do a YouTube mix of scenes from different movies and see if anyone thinks it's the same film or like 15 different films.
It would be like getting Channing Tatum to play Columbo. That's the worst.
All right. So here we go. Very, very good.
That took a long time to get there, and I'm sorry.
No, but I know exactly what you mean. So very good. So the $1 million question of the episode is, If you could greenlight Kolchak as a series tomorrow, who would be at the top of your list to play the part?
You know, that's been really difficult, and I know I created this question.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
If I chose an American actor,
Yeah.
the only because I'm also thinking, how do you get this green lit, right? And a lot of people are saying Johnny Depp and blah blah blah. The only American name actor I can think of that could pull it off is Bryan Cranston.
Really?
That's my thought, because
I like that.
he has an amazing range. He can do comedy.
I
He's
like
a
that.
middle-aged guy.
I like that. Yeah. But
and
he is a handsome fella.
That's the thing. But so was Darren McGavin.
No, Darren McGavin was, but he was. Yeah, no, of course he was.
Yeah.
It was different, but he wasn't. I mean, he wasn't Shatner. Come on.
No, but how many men are going to be that big?
But who is?
Yeah, well, Shatner was Canadian too, so
Cranston's good. That's good.
Yeah, like I kept thinking, what British actor could pull this off? But Cranston, to me, he's a really good actor. I mean, he makes you love and hate Walter White in the same, So I think he could pull it off. And of course, the Malcolm in the Middle thing was always really good to show his comedy chops.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
What's yours?
Sam Rockwell.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell.
Wow, I'm jealous. That's really good.
Sam Rockwell, because that guy, I've loved that guy for so long. And while he can sometimes lapse into the Sam Rockwellisms, which is what I kind of dig about him, then he'll pull out something like Moon.
Yeah.
That just knocked my socks off.
Well, damn it.
And then he can turn right around and just do, just flat out silly comedy. But he's got a presence and he's got a weirdness to him that even in Iron Man 2, even in what is one of the weakest Marvel films, even his character in Iron Man 2, you can tell he's doing so much more with it. There's a bit in Iron Man 2 that is so obvious when he's talking to Mickey Rourke, who he busts out of jail, spoilers. He clearly is this guy that gets spray tanned. He clearly is a guy that goes and gets airbrush and spray tan. And so he's using his hands a lot in the scene, and you can see the splotches of like orange spray and paint on his hands where he's gotten this bad, spray tan from kind of thing. And, Rockwell to me is one of those character guys that became a leading man, sort of, and isn't afraid to look rumpled. And also, see, the only other person I would have said that kind of pops into mind, and this, I'll say the name and then I'll tell you why it doesn't work.
Okay.
Is Oliver Platt. And I'll tell you why it doesn't work though. The weight, and I really like Oliver Platt, but the rumpleness, whatever, but he's too big, he's too imposing. Kolchak I think he should be, like you said, he's not the front of the press room, he's going to have to stick his foot in the door, whatever, and Rockwell's the guy that kind of blends in.
Yeah.
He's not the guy that stands and goes, oh, look, it's Flash Thompson. He's going to be asking questions. Go ahead, Flash.
Yeah.
Kolchak's at the back going, got one, hey, over here. Got one more question. What happened to the thing with the thing? And I think Rockwell would be really good.
Oh, yeah, no. Having seen, I'll never forget, I couldn't live this down because I just one day got in the car and drove downtown to watch a movie. And it was Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Oh, yeah.
And my wife, when I got home, my wife said, you mean to tell me you drove all the way downtown to see a movie with Drew Barrymore, George Clooney, and Julia Roberts, 3 people you don't like?
Right.
And I was like, yeah. Right? And it was mostly A, because I'm fascinated by how batshit crazy
Chuck
Barris is.
Right.
B,
right.
Sam Rockwell was amazing in that.
He was great.
Yeah.
I think I've loved him. I mean, people have a lot of criticism for the Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy film. I think it's just fine. It's never going to be the books or the radio show or the British.
I don't levy any of the criticism on him.
No, I think he's still wonderful in it. The problem is we know it so well. If I know people that love that movie. A couple of friends that never knew what it was and really have a love for it because they have nothing to compare it to. They weren't those people that went into it knowing everything. I mean, I'm sitting there going, I know every single syllable in this thing, and how can I not think of the original Zaphod when I'm watching what he's doing?
Yeah.
So that was the problem. But when I saw him in Moon, I mean, that's when I just was, oh man, somebody's given this guy something else to do. and he's always been good.
You didn't see his range in Charlie's Angels?
Yeah. Well, there's another one he did. There's what's it called? Oh my gosh, you got to find this movie. Again, it was produced by Clooney, but it's a remake of an Italian film which was called Big Deal on Madonna Street. And it's him and William Macy and George Clooney and
This is Matchstick Men?
Claude Akins. No, he's great in that too. He's really good in that. No, it's something City or something Town or something.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a remake of these petty crooks that are trying to do this safe heist. And he's just got great timing. He's just even in I think he steals the entire Galaxy Quest. I think he's the funniest thing in Galaxy Quest.
He's really great in that.
He's perfect. And I'll bet you nowhere in the script did it say he's got a mustache. He thought to grow that mustache, and you knew exactly who this guy was.
Yeah.
I think he's only going to get better, and that would be my guy. I just think he'd be.
No, you win.
There are no wrong answers, but you may be correct. I don't know.
No, I really dig that.
But we would be remiss if we didn't talk about, there have been custom figures made of Darren McGavin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Distinctive Dummies has done a 12-inch and an 8-inch version of Carl Kolchak. Both, I think, have completely sold out now. I don't think... I have actually honestly tried to get that license to produce a Mego-style figure. Nothing screams 1974, more like a Mego-style figure. It is really difficult to find somebody, and I don't know if there is issues with the license. I know that Jeff Rice sued the show while it was in production.
Okay.
And that may be an inhibitor. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But it is one of those things that does not have... it's not as easy to find any merchandise from that show. I mean, there's no T-shirts. There's nothing. And it is beloved. I mean, I can remember going to Chiller Theater Cons, and there would be a dude walking around whistling that theme song the entire time.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. Wait, yeah. Which theme? The theme of the show?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so glad you brought this up because I would have forgotten this. Mm-hmm. You are an aficionado of 70s television. You are also an aficionado of theme music and songs, etc.
Yep.
What is your take on the theme to Kolchak the Night Stalker?
It is really different.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a very good theme song. It is distinct. It starts off with the whistling, and then it goes into that, the thematic version. And I think the starting of the show is a little cheesy.
Yes.
But, as a show goes, I kind of think it's one of the more memorable, I guess.
See, I think that I hate the whistling.
Do you?
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I think it suddenly feels like we're going into like it's going to be some 70s romance or
it always kind of reminds me of the music that Charlton Heston's playing at the start of the Omega Man when he puts it on in his 8-track. It's this easy breezy listening music.
Like it's gonna suddenly we're gonna have it's the start of Mrs. Columbo or whatever, something like that. But then when he gets to the type, it's like dun, 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 and then you go, oh, that's a 70s.
Oh yeah.
Now it's getting spooky. I get it because I'd imagine the intention was in a seemingly sort of normal environment and everything is rosy and the kids are out playing and whatever and everything's fine. There is an underbelly of evil that's going around this city.
Yeah.
And it starts out kind of blissful, and then it's like, no, it's really actually spooky, and then it goes spooky. But for my money, I would have lost the whistling and just gone right to spooky. Have him just walk and then do something tingly or spooky, and then dunga dunga dunga.
Let's go into just the series for a second. I hear what you're saying. I disagree. I love that theme.
Well,
maybe it's because it's different.
You're going to be wrong. And by the way, can I also throw out, speaking of Kolchak and speaking of toys, throw out a shout out to Chris Height, who is a famous listener and big fan of Monsters, Pod Stallions, Plaid Stallions, cool stuff in general.
Yeah.
And he years ago sent me the 12-inch Kolchak figure.
Dummies?
Is it Distinctive Dummies? Is that who did it? Well, I've got the 12-inch figure with the straw hat and the flashlight and tape recorder and all that stuff.
Very nice.
Yeah, so thank you again, Chris. It's in a place of pride in one of my cases in the office. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there.
I have the 8-inch Janos Skorzeny. But by the way, this is an homage no one remembers. Do you remember the 1980s Fox TV series Werewolf?
The 1980s
Yeah,
Fox?
remember when the Fox network first premiered? They had a basically it's a remake of the Incredible Hulk, more or less, where a guy gets turned into a werewolf and he's trying to find the head werewolf to kill him.
The amulet?
No, the head werewolf, the one-armed head werewolf.
The head werewolf.
Yeah. And the head werewolf was played by Chuck Connors,
as it would be,
and his name was Janos Skorzeny, which was a direct homage to the Night Stalker.
Is this the point where I tell my story about how Peter Wyngarde got brought into Marvel Comics lore that I've told like probably 4 times on the show without even knowing it?
You've done that before, yeah. You've done the Jason King thing before.
Swordfish.
Yeah, swordfish. Yeah.
I thought we had a safe word, Hyler.
I forgot it.
God, great. Just leave me hanging.
Tippy toe.
Tippy toe. Lemon tree.
But I was sick this week. This is why I sound this way. So I was watching old Kolchaks, and they go through all the tropes. Like, you got to wonder how the second season would even go anywhere. It was becoming Monster of the Week. The first episode is the Ripper, Jack the Ripper reincarnated, which is a pretty solid piece. And it's also very funny because there's a scene in the episode where Carl is hiding in the Ripper's closet. And, the guy's, it's doing the pantomime of putting his clothes away. And Carl just pulls a full-on Shemp. The character just goes, and runs out of the closet.
Well, it did get kind of, what was the one, wait a minute. So, is that
that was the pilot.
But who was the guy? Remember the werewolf episode?
The werewolf on the cruise ship is actually a good one because...
but who's the guy that played Hermie in Get Smart?
He was Dick Gautier.
Jaime. What was it?
Dick Gautier.
Dick Gautier.
Gautier.
Yeah. He's the swinging single that shares a room with Kolchak.
Oh, is he? He also played Batman in that Equal Rights for Equal Pay commercial with you.
None more 70s than Dick Gautier.
No, I like that guy.
He's like the Marjo Gortner of 70s unbuttoned shirtdom.
He got around. So we had that. I think the next there was a zombie episode which had Antonio Fargas in it. And
because I remember this one because I went, it's from The Shining. It's Scatman Crothers is in it too.
Oh yeah, yeah, and Phil Silvers is in an episode about a creature that can take on the likeness of anyone, like an ancient. It's a strange episode, and in fact, the monster takes on the appearance of Emily from Carl Kolchak's office, and Carl actually shoots an arrow into Emily.
Did Joe Flynn ever make it into the show?
Regretfully, no.
Let me tell you something. And Joe Flynn, okay, right. Well, I'm afraid, CJ, we're gonna have to make the monkey the vice principal. Okay, make the monkey the vice. Well, the monkey the vice principal. Yeah. What? There's a
Huge
talk about
Joe Flynn fan.
Talk about camp and like over the edge. People forget a lot of the Night Gallery. If there were shorts in the episode of the Night Gallery,
they're pretty cheap.
There was some goofy, and there's a goofy one. I mean, uber goofy, where a vampire comes to I was going to say a massage parlor. That's not right. Not a massage parlor, a funeral parlor. That
was a Cinemax movie you saw.
So this vampire and a Nazi walk into a funeral party. No. So this vampire walks in, it gets to the funeral thing to arrange a funeral. Joe Flynn is the guy behind the desk, and you can just imagine the setup. And eventually, like, who's all right? That's the name of it. Who's going to be? And wow, I'm so sorry. And then you realize the guy's saying, "I'm throwing my own funeral," and he's a vampire or whatever. And here's my guest list. And of course, Joe Flynn's like, "What do you mean you want to tie him?" The vampire is Werner Klemperer from Hogan's Heroes.
Oh dear God!
And the guy, at the parlor is Joe Flynn. And then eventually when the guests start turning up, they are like central casting. There's a green witch with a big pointy hat. There's a werewolf guy. There's, whatever. And they're all kind of hanging out in the pews acting monstery. It is the weirdest, maddest 70s stupid thing ever. It's
Amicus movies got that way too.
They did. They did.
They just were like, let's just go full on camp. I was just watching the Monster Club the other day, and it's like, oh boy, like.
Is that the one that, like, are UB40 in that? Who's it?
Yeah, UB40's in it.
Yeah. God, think of the stuff, again, that I should know up in my brain that I know.
Yeah, you got that. Yeah, I can't get that Monsters Rule OK theme song out of my head. Like, it has been there since 1981.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's sad. And the movie's not even good.
You know what's sad that you just say that, which just, the memory that leads me to?
What's that?
And I bet I've seen this once in 30, however many years. The Mego commercial for the Incredible Hulk, 12-inch kind of Incredible Hulk, the Incredible Hulk with the face that's
mean. Yeah. I have that on 16 millimeter.
It was in my head from that era to like a year ago when I found it again on YouTube or whenever it was, or you sent me something or whatever it was a couple years ago, and I went, oh my God, I know, and I could have sung the entire thing from back then. Isn't that odd? Don't you think that's just weird that we retain stuff like that?
You know what?
It's not like it ran for years.
I dug up the incredible Dr. Steele commercial a few years ago on 16 millimeter, and I paid a fortune to have it transferred because it's been in my head since 75, and I really needed to see it again.
Then there's another one. There's another one that I can think of, and we might have talked about this because you gotta start making it. Giving me some. We got to get a Wikipedia page or something because I'm going to forget the stuff we've talked about. But there was an animated show about a witch that Gilda Radner did the voice for.
Yeah, we did this.
Yeah, well, the song, like I know that I remember the theme of that, and I found it again on YouTube. And I'm like, this aired one time in the U.S., and I know how the theme of the thing goes. I probably need to be on some kind of
Witch's Night Out.
Witch's Night Out.
Yeah,
it aired once.
You know what? My wife and I had to rent The Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe when we were first dating because she had a nightmare in like 79 or 78 of one of the guys pushing her off a cliff. And she's like, I really need to see that again just to, like, it was like kind of clemency, I guess, or cathartic, It's
facing
facing the fear. And like
cleansing.
When she first said, I had a nightmare about that guy, I thought it was recent.
Yeah,
she's like, when I was 8,
I've only slowly started to buy, Han Solo and Carbonite figures, and
did that
just got a dog toy for the dogs. It's been a long time, I know, but I'm still trying to come to terms with what that did to me. How horrible! I'm not kidding. Show me
on the Han and Carbonite where it hurt you.
I was sick to my stomach. It wasn't just the Carbonite; it was the torture before the Carbonite.
Yeah.
I'd never seen that happen to a hero before. That was awful. But that's a whole other show. We can just talk about my psyche.
It's a show we did.
We did, but we didn't explore my psyche for like 90 minutes about why that scarred me so much.
That's called therapy.
Is this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We should do an episode on therapy, unless we haven't.
We
have already. So there you go. So we've covered the merchandise, what little there was, the spin-off, the remake. We've given the remake as much air as I'd like to. I'm sure there. You can buy it. I think I've seen. You can get it. You know what? I just couldn't. It was so wrong-headed. Well, you know what they did, which you might even know this. In the first episode, they digitally inserted shots of Darren McGavin. That doesn't make it good. They also remade The Prisoner, and they had an old guy dressed as number 6. I know. It doesn't make it good. I'm just saying that. Did you ever see that remake of The Prisoner? I stuck with it for like, I want to say 2, because it was a mini series or something, or a series.
It
How
was a
did it go?
mini series.
I think I stuck with it through was it 3 nights or 4 nights or
I
what?
don't envy anyone remaking The Prisoner, and at one
No,
point,
they've tried to do it for years, but I just couldn't stick with it.
one point they had Christopher Eccleston, and I thought, okay, there's a guy that I could see pulling a McGowan. McGowan was like McGavern, a really hard to replicate human being.
Well, it's like, you know what? I know, like the Avengers, the not the Marvel Avengers, but the Avengers series that I love so much with Steed and Peel.
Mm-hmm.
When they made that film, it is universally thought of as one of the worst genre kind of adaptations. I don't think it is there are much worse.
Oh yeah.
To pick, but the biggest problem, and Uma was okay, but she wasn't grinning throughout the way Emma was. Emma was sharp and this and that. There wasn't a smirk anywhere in that. And worst of all was Ralph Fiennes trying to emulate John Steed and what Patrick Macnee did with that character. He wasn't po-faced in the show. He was having the time of his life. And even smiling when he was sword fighting. And when you miss the mark like that with a character, or you cast Stuart Townsend as, I don't know what they didn't learn from the fact that he got let go from Lord of the Rings as Aragorn. What did they see that Peter Jackson didn't?
You know what? Stuart Townsend is the best Lestat.
He is.
But that's like, nobody's a good Lestat.
Yeah, of the 2 times Lestat's been played, he's the best Lestat.
It's like you won, but
he finally won.
It's not that he isn't. I have nothing against Jim Caviezel, but he's not Patrick McGowan, and I feel the same way about Stuart Townsend. It's like that guy isn't anywhere on the same planet as Darren McGavin. They're not similar.
No.
And I know they were trying to. I'm pretty sure what they were also trying to do was get heat from something else, whatever that was, like X-Files. It could have been X-Files for all I know, but it's not the same thing.
No, they definitely were trying to do, like, they thought, well, this would be another X-Files.
Yeah.
Hey, in that detective episode that we did?
Yeah.
Did we talk about who we would cast as Rockford?
No, but
I literally still don't have an answer for that.
Oh, well, I don't know either.
I don't.
Channing Tatum.
Well, because the problem is he's rumpled. He's not a sad character, but he doesn't always get paid. He's getting in trouble. He lives in a trailer, keeps his gun in a cookie jar, but he's still a handsome fellow. He does fine with the ladies.
Josh Brolin.
It's James frickin' Garner. What'd you say?
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin.
Bit rugged,
yeah.
Looks like I thought he was on a couch.
I thought he should have been the next Batman, the next Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because you want to see that guy in a bat suit kicking people's faces in.
You know what? I think there's been a lot of talk of that, but I don't know where we're going with that.
I think he should. Well, it's too late now. It's Ben blah blah. It should have been him. But that's not bad for Rockford. Although I don't know if he has the charm that. I mean, who's this? Garner could be charming, sexy. He could punch your face out. And remember the time that he went into the bar. He knew a guy was following him, and he asked the bartender for a roll of quarters, and he put it in his right hand, and the guy followed him into the men's room. And as soon as the guy walked in, Garner punched him with the roll of quarters in his fists.
Yeah.
And then the paper burst, and then Garner just dropped the quarters and ran, because the guy was bigger than Garner.
Yeah.
Always using his brain. I don't know who that would be. I don't know how you put that in a bottle and go, that's the guy that should play Rockford. And they tried it. They did a pilot 4 or 5 years ago, and it was Dermot Mulroney. Not Dylan. Wait, Dylan McDermott is the guy from The Practice? No,
I don't know.
Dermot Mulroney.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell.
Dylan Mulroney. Yeah. Mulroney. Dermot McDermott. Anyway, there you go. That's
our love letter to the Night Stalker.
Love the Night Stalker.
I'm just trying to think.
And Halloween coming around the corner. Nothing better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
did we do a 10 monster movie kind of thing? Did we do that?
Yes.
No, we didn't.
Pretty sure we did. In fact, we've done this whole Kolchak one before.
Did we?
Yeah.
We should do an episode on deja vu.
Yeah, well,
Or have we done that?
I think we did it before on this show.
No, wait a second. We did one on. No, we did scariest movies. No, we didn't. We did monster movies, didn't we?
We did a top 10 monster movie one last year. I'm positive.
That was a year ago?
Yeah, mine was terrible, and yours were pretty great.
Well, that's the show, isn't it?
Well, that's
there.
me.
That's the show. No,
I just wanted to point out, too, before we just get off the subject, because I'm just thinking about it. The show went into sci-fi. Do you remember, like, they had an alien episode?
No, that was what I was gonna ask you, and I got sidetracked.
And there was a robot episode called Mr. Ring. But the one that always kills me is there's one, and I cannot remember the name of it, but see if you've heard this plot before. Guys are mining. They find these spheres. They throw them away, and a monster starts killing them. Turns out those spheres are eggs.
Oh, interesting.
Does that sound familiar?
Out of Africa?
No, it's Devil
I'm kidding.
in the Dark.
I'm kidding. It was what was it?
Star Trek.
It's it's the Horta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did it on Kolchak too.
See, back then you didn't have information at your fingertips where you could go, oh, clearly a ripoff. You'd have to like tell your friends on the playground. Go.
Except in every Starlog or anything, they would have that. Kolchak ripped off Star Trek.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That is. Yeah.
But I'm sure that the science fiction nerds. If you take them out of the equation, I'm sure there's like 5 mod squads that stole a Dragnet script, or like.
Don't go bagging on Link and the gang, okay?
Hey, dude.
That's a whole other episode.
1990, I never missed a 1 a.m. mod squad.
That was the other time you were unemployed.
I did. No, I just missed 8 a.m. math.
Oh. Listen, can we get to the real crux of the episode, please? Can you finally wrap this up and tell us the big, exciting news that you got the other day, that someone got in touch with you that happens to be...
I just, what, I get a lot of emails, and I'm sorry, folks, if I haven't got back to you. I've gotten show ideas and comments, criticisms, which I greatly appreciate, too.
Do we know, really? Do we?
We do get a few, but that's
fine. Do we appreciate them?
I do, because...
I'm kidding. Bring them on.
Most of them are done in a very sensible kind of like, hey, guys, if you could... most people have tact,
Hey guys, if you could stop with the effing and jeffing, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. None of them are deer creeps. I got a shout out from a fella who was looking for advice on value of a toy. It was an amazing toy. I've never seen it before. But turns out he came to us because he was a fan, and of course I'll be replying to him shortly, but Stephen was really kind enough to really give us a real shot in the arm and an ego boost. And it turns out he's playing bass for the band Echo and the Bunnymen. So thank you very much for listening, and your kind words really paved a lot of ways for us over this weekend. It was really nice to know you're listening.
Yeah, and I haven't spoken, to him. Obviously, I've got the information from you, but this just thrills me that he's listening and digs what we're doing, because it is one of those, the world just got really small for me to get that text from you, and I didn't believe you. I was like, come on, really? Like, but it's gratifying that anyone's listening, that anyone cares. But that was really a special little moment there that you told me that someone.
Well, I try to send you the good ones.
Feel free to send the ones that think I'm hate my voice, too overbearing, all that stuff too. I can pull all this back. I can peel it back.
Well, most of them are about your horrible politics and your liberal agenda.
Well, did we do that episode?
No, we are gonna though.
Okay, we need to do that. Yeah, how the liberal agenda is making its way into Star Trek.
Is the liberal agenda blow up computers? Because that's all I get from Star Trek.
On the Enterprise. How'd that happen? Well, it was 1966. Oh, it was? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm way behind. But thank you all for listening and sending any information. Please keep sending the gifts and the cakes. We, never get tired of that.
I really appreciate all the pocket squares.
Pocket squares, and but you could send more jelly babies. Sure could use some more of those. And as always, to my Wow, did you hear?
Did
Did
you
you
do
get
some wheelies there?
Did you get that? Yeah, someone's revving up the Evil Knievel stunt cycle out front. Apparently, as always, big thank you to my Canadian pal Brian Heiler across the
Hey,
pond.
that's me.
Not across the pond, but across the wall.
Yeah.
That wall. When are they going to build the wall between America and Canada? By the
Pretty
way,
soon, actually. I'm really thrilled.
I got to get over there before
Yeah.
they build it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It keeps us in.
Sneak in.
Yeah.
And thank you all for listening. What a great topic, Brian. Thanks for bringing up Kolchak, and it brought up lots of cool memories for me. I hope it did for everyone else. And if it didn't, well, then I'm sad for you.
And look for us at the end of the month. We're going to do 2 this month, and next show is Godzilla. Spoilers.
It is?
It is.
We did Godzilla.
No, we haven't.
All right, just checking to make
We're
sure
about to. So I'd like you to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. See you in 2 weeks.
I'll do my best.
All right.
I'll start with the Broderick one.
Yeah, that's a good way to get your motivation going because they only get better.
Get my base started, start maintaining, and then move on from there.
Sounds good.
All right, man.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.